Okay, is everybody on the board all set?
Yep.
Okay, welcome everyone to the December 21st District 121 Board meeting. We'd like to get started. The first agenda item that we have is a public hearing to receive comments on the 2021 tax levy. At some point, anyone who wishes to be heard will have the opportunity to present written or oral testimony. But at this point, Mike, if you'd like to give the presentation.
Next slide. All right, next slide. Well, welcome everybody. This is the public hearing for the.
Do we need a motion on the motion to go into the hearing?
Okay, yep. First thing we need to do is I'm going to move to open the public hearing for the 2021 tax levy.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
So back in October, we went through the tentative presentation of the estimated aggregate tax levy. We also went through the full presentation of that tax levy. We went through the process of the board and how it takes action to approve the resolution estimating the aggregate tax levy for the 2021 year. And we also have the public hearing and the pursuant to truth and taxation, because we are asking for above 5%, so we will have the hearing this evening. On December 10th, no more than 14 days, but less than 7 days, it was published in the newspaper, and tonight we're having the public hearing at the regularly scheduled board meeting. Next slide. So this is the breakdown of the tax levy request. IMRF, $725,000, Social Security at $725,000, tort immunity at $700,000, transportation at $3 million, education fund at $38 million, operations and maintenance at $4.25 million, working cash fund at $50,000, fire prevention and life safety at $0, special education at $1.5 million, leasing fund at $500,000. So the total would be $49,450,000. Next slide. So as we're aware, for the maximum tax increase by law here is the CPI of last year, December, which is 1.4%. Here's the CPI. It kind of shows you the history over the last since 1993. So this percentage represents the district-wide maximum increase and the average increase to the taxpayers. Individual tax bills may increase above or below this figure based on changes of the EAV to their assessed values of their property. But right now, the district can only exceed by 1.4% increase from the prior year. Next slide. So this is the breakdown of revenues and what we received. As you can see, the real estate taxes account for 74%. Corporate personal property replacement taxes at 2%. Local funding at 6%. Evidence-based funding at 10%. State funding at 5%. And federal grants at 4%. Next slide. So this is the estimated impact to the district. It's estimated that right now on the tax extension for non-bond and interest, funds will increase $3.7 million. It's estimated that the tax extension for the bond fund will actually decrease by $65,990. Therefore, the total tax increase is estimated to be approximately $3.6 million at approximately 6.99%. That is what we are asking. It's a balloon levy. Next slide. Here's the estimated impact to the district. This assumes $25 million of new growth to the district, and the overall levy is going to be, as you can see in prior years, what we've asked for and what we received. But keep in mind that we are limited to last year's December CPI plus any new growth. So back in 2018, we asked for $49,350,000. We received a little bit more than $43.4 million. 2019, we actually asked for a little bit less at $48 million. We received $44,600,000. In 2020, we asked for $49,560,000. We received $45,841,000. And this year, we're requesting $49,450,000. And as you'll see, it's going to be a 1.4 extension above what we received last year at the $45,841,000 plus any new growth here in the district. Next slide. So this is the estimated impact as taxpayers assuming a $300,000 median home value. The annual increase due to non-bond and interest levy is approximately $170 versus the previous tax year. The change in bond and interest levy is approximately -$1 from the previous year. Therefore, the total annual increase is estimated to be $169.50 versus the prior year. Again, however, the district is limited to the CPI of 1.4% plus any new growth. With that being said, a 1.4% increase over the last year's extension, including new growth, would equate to approximately $1.129 million. Therefore, on a $300,000 home, it would approximately be about $50, including for bond and non-bond increase. Next slide. Here's the certificate of tax levy. It breaks it down by fund and what in the request. Next slide. Are there any questions?
One question. The previous slide breakdown by fund,
Yes.
is that just proportioned based on that fund's annual budget?
If, is it a proportionality reduction across all funds?
Yeah.
Except for education. We're trying to maximize the ed fund.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Is there any written testimony that we received?
No, we've received none.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like to make an oral testimony on the tax levy? Okay.
You got one hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there.
Sorry, I slowly raised my hand because that was not quite the nomenclature.
If you would like, you could go up there and go up to the microphone. That would be great. It's not scary.
Like the podium?
Yes.
He won't yell at you, don't worry. You're all good. He only yells at me.
All right, my name is Karen Beeman, and I am someone who lives in the district. My kids are part of the Blue Devil Swim Club. I have 3 kids that'll be coming to Warren shortly. I'm an alum myself. My parents went to Warren, highly dedicated, love the school, and I'm very interested in having the quality of education that I had for my kids. I don't totally understand what you just said as far as whether we are going to have more funding as a school or less funding as a school. And when you say tax levy, it's the exact same thing as the referendum.
So, what this is talking about here is every year we have to file with the state to ask them for lots of money.
Yep.
Which we always do.
Yep.
But all we get is whatever the last year's CPI was. So this next year, we're gonna get 1.4% more money than we got last year. Which won't be enough, and the referendum is working to increase that number, so we get more every year. So it's 2 separate things. This is just kind of a functional thing that we have to do every year. We said we want 6%, we get the CPI.
Right,
That's
that's
it.
nice, but you're going to get 1.4%.
Right.
So later in the agenda, will you be talking more about the referendum and efforts around that, or is that this portion only?
That's on the agenda for later on.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Just wanted to make sure.
Not a
Thank you.
problem. Thank you for speaking up and asking the question.
We don't get too many triple legacies here, so I mean.
Are there any other questions from anybody? Looking for that slow hand again. Okay. At this point, all persons desiring to be heard have been given the opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the 2021 tax levy. This 2021 tax levy has been placed on tonight's agenda, the December 21st, 21 regular Board of Education meeting, as an action item. Now, if I could just get an motion to move on to the next.
I move to close the public hearing for the 2021 tax levy.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson? Mr. DeMonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Now back into open session. The first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would mind, everybody standing up. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody on the board have a modification to the agenda? not, I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next up on the agenda is recognitions, and it's great to see we've got a couple of different recognitions tonight.
We do, and I think Ms. Belmont and Ms. Lonegro are going to start to step forward. And before we do that, Brandon, can you go to the first slide? Because there are a few very special athletes who are here tonight, but I also want to make sure the board is aware that these athletes, as well as some others, were recognized at the village board meeting on December 6th. So it was very nice of Mayor Hood and the trustees to honor a number of our fall sport athletes at their meeting as well. And I think that Ms. Belmont or Ms. Lonergan are going to recognize some of those students here tonight.
Luke and Grace, come on up. I'm going to have you guys stand up here in front of everyone for a while. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a few minutes to celebrate our fall athletic season. It truly was a great fall. We had 584 athletes compete in 11 sports. It was great to see so many of our student athletes participate, compete, and have successes both big and small. But most importantly, it was great just to see our kids have fun. Here's a summary of the great season that we had. First, our NSC Sportsmanship Award winners. One athlete is chosen by their coach that best represents the true meaning of sportsmanship. Our NSC Conference champions. We had 2 teams win conference titles, boys soccer and football. Individually, in boys cross country, Luke Wiley, and in girls swimming, Grace Beavers were both conference champions. NSC All-Conference. Athletes are chosen and voted on by all the head coaches in the league for the team sports. In individual sports, all conferences determined by their place at the conference meet. In all, Warren had 40 athletes make NSC All-Conference or NSC Honorable Mention All-Conference. At the state level, Warren won 2 team regional championships in girls golf and girls volleyball. Individually, Luke Wiley won the regional and sectional titles in cross country, and Grace Beavers won the sectional title in swimming. For accomplishments for each team this fall, first we have Coach Brett Heimstedt, the head boys cross country coach. The team placed 2nd in the NSC, 2nd in the IHSA regionals, 6th in the IHSA sectionals, and qualified as a team for the IHSA state finals. Individually, Luke Wiley was the NSC, IHSA regional, and IHSA sectional champion. He placed 4th in state finals, earning all state honors. Luke ran a personal best time of 14:19 in the state finals. Let them know who you are, Luke. That's Luke right there.
yeah.
We have David Lara. He placed 2nd in the NSC meet, 5th in the regionals, 19th at the sectionals. He placed 24th at the IHSA state finals, earning all state honors. David ran a personal best time at the state meet with a time of 14:52. David isn't here tonight. He's probably studying for some finals. Next, in girls cross country, coached by Jacob Udall, they took 3rd place at NSC championships, 4th at the regional, and qualified for the IHSA sectionals. Individually, Mia Pasha placed 2nd in the NSC, 3rd at regionals, 4th at sectionals. Mia placed 6th at the IHSA state finals, earning all state honors. Not only did she run a personal best time at the biggest meet, she cut 45 seconds off her previous best personal time. She came in with a great time of 16:50. Mia's also at home studying tonight. The football team, coached by Brian McNulty, won the NSC championship for the 4th straight year and did not lose one conference game during that time. They won their 1st round playoff game against Barrington. In boys golf, Luke Steinhilber was an IHSA sectional qualifier. The girls golf team, coached by Leanne Mondarica-Sponcher, won the IHSA regional championship. The boys soccer team, coached by Jason Ahonen, won the NSC championship for the 2nd straight year. In girls swimming and diving, head coach Chris Bertano was named IHSA sectional coach of the year. Individually, Haley Benoit placed 5th in the 100 butterfly and 6th in the 100 backstroke at the NSC meet. Haley placed 4th in 100 back at the IHSA sectionals, qualifying for the state finals. Grace Beavers was the NSC and IHSA sectional champ in the 100 back. She placed 2nd in the 200 individual medley at conference and was the sectional champion in the 200 IM. At the state finals, Grace had a PR in the backstroke, placing 5th and earning all-state honors. And here is Grace. The girls volleyball team, coached by Yun Chen, won the IHSA regionals. We also had 2 national letter intent signings to honor 16 of our student athletes that are continuing their athletic careers at the collegiate level. And we have a little video showing each of them that we can play. That video shows how hard our athletes work and how hard our coaches work with them, because those are 16 great schools and 16 great athletes. Overall, it was a great fall. I'm very thankful to all of the coaches and the 500-plus athletes for their time and commitment to Warren Athletics. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Becky. That's all for recognition.
Next up is the reception of visitors. Ms. Love, did we have anybody sign in?
Set the book out? I don't know if anyone signed.
Well, If anybody would like to address the board, now is your opportunity. Each person is allowed 3 minutes. Go ahead and go up to the podium, address the board. Just keep in mind, this is a chance to address the board. It's not meant as a conversation, but if you have anything you'd like us to hear, we'd like to hear from you. Nobody's going to take us up on the opportunity, but there is another chance at the end of the meeting. Next up is the president's report. And I'd like to go right into the Schuler program.
Right, Dr. Keeley, I think Uriel is here, and will you please give some introductions?
It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gonzalez in the Schuler program. As most board members are aware, pretty familiar with the Schuler program. They continue to do great work in both of our campuses. We're really lucky to have them as part of our program. And they're just going to give you their annual overview so they can give you an update on what's going on with the Schuler program. Mr. Gonzalez?
Hi, I'm Uriel Gonzalez, the school director for the Schuler Scholar Program, and I'm accompanied by Rebecca Rodriguez, who is the college counselor for the Schuler Scholar Program. So thank you for having us. We'll go ahead and start the presentation. I do want to remind you that David Lara, who was mentioned in the athletics presentation, is a Schuler Scholar. And if you don't remember him, he's probably at home studying. So we're just going to do a year in review, talk about the scale of our program, retention, any changes in any policies, some college matriculation outcomes from last year, college graduation outcomes, and some college statistics, the increased Schuler scholarship, which we presented last year, but just a reminder of that, and then some of our site goals, and then what we're looking ahead to for this next year. All right, so this is just an image of our scholars in action. Some of these are taken from prior to the time we need to wear masks, and a couple are from the time we have started to wear masks. So lots of changes between last couple of years. Next slide. This is our dedicated staff. Talon, who's our educational counselor, is in absentia, and so is Natalia, who would have been here for the presentation. Just one change that has happened between our staff is we used to have a contract with the AmeriCorps program, so we had our scholar coaches be here for 2 years and then choose to stay on a 3rd year. We've gotten rid of our contract with AmeriCorps, so that gives our scholar coaches who help tutor our students, that gives them a chance to stay on longer as they're salaried, and to build relationships with our parents and students for longer term. So we hope that that change allows us to just build a stronger program, a stronger community in Schuler. Some of our organizational goals is to just increase the program scale, right? Get every student that qualifies for a program into our program, improve our retention, so try to keep as many students in our program as we can, get them to the best colleges, the best selective private liberal arts institutions, and then get them to graduate from college. Next slide. Do you want to go over the scholar numbers, Rebecca?
So as you can see, our class of 25 has 18 scholars, our class of 24 has 11 scholars, our class of 23 has 16 scholars, and our class of 22 has 19 scholars. Our numbers have gone down a little bit in these recent years, but we're working with the middle schools and the 9th grade counselors to make sure that we're able to reach every family who does qualify for our program. And then the 9th grade round is to make sure there are other students who might have not qualified in middle school, but who might have had a good freshman year are also eligible for our program.
As you can see, we're traditionally one of the larger Schuler partner high schools, and we have about 15 high schools, and we just added another school from Milwaukee, so we've expanded out in that direction as well. So that's.
Can a family join in or qualify midway? So like if they didn't qualify coming in as a freshman, but they might now as a junior, for example?
Unfortunately, at the junior point, no. We have 8th grade selection, so they enter as 8th graders, 9th graders, and then we have 9th graders into sophomores. Next slide. So our program scale, as you can see, our program scale has decreased just in general on average, but we have a slight increase from the previous year. I think a lot of that was due to adhering closer to our selection criteria, which is being first gen, underrepresented, or low income. But in the past year, we also disregarded the MAP score as a criteria because we didn't have the scores, and actually yielded more scholars in general. And we found out that the best criteria for selection ends up being their 9th grade. And because when they're coming in as 8th graders, we don't have that data yet. It's just hard to know who's going to be a fit for our program. And so we found out that 9th grade is the best time to select students, and we were able to actually capture 5 more students in our smallest class, which is our current sophomore class. Luckily, through a program we call the Bridge Program, where we help students maintain their grades to be able to be selected as sophomores in our program. So, but like I said, on average, we have decreased as a program just to make sure that we're able to support the students that are in it. But we've actually gotten to increase a couple more in the past year, and we hope that we stay close to that, about 18 students this year during our selection process. Scholar retention. So on average, you can see students have strong GPAs, and these are unweighted GPAs. I know Warren typically looks at the weighted GPA, but for our students to have such high GPAs is a good sign that Warren is doing things right and we're able to support our students adequately as well. Next slide. So reasons for the withdrawal. So typically the main reason for withdrawal is that students don't meet our 3.3 academic minimum, which is our 3.3 unweighted GPA. And then we've actually changed our policy to where instead of withdrawing our juniors who work so hard, what we will do is if a student makes it onto senior year, we will not withdraw them during that year in order to just keep that relationship. The only reason which they could be withdrawn as a senior is if they decide to go to college that's a non-Schuler college. And we work with about 140-something institutions.
And I do want to point out that one of the students who self-withdrew senior year actually qualified for a different scholarship. So 2 scholars decided to stay local for family reasons. So sometimes our goals don't align at the end, and another scholar received the Evans scholarship. So.
Nonetheless, for our students, success is them getting to college. So we support that. We support them all the way until the end of the year, even post when they declare where they're going to school, all the way filling out paperwork, et cetera, so that they can have that support until the last day that they are here at Warren. And we personally keep in contact with them too afterwards. Next slide, college attainment.
So in the class of 2021, we had acceptances to about 18 universities. 2 scholars attended Beloit, so that's why out of a class of 19, we have 18 colleges. The majority of them stayed local in the Midwest, so you have Lake Forest, DePaul, Beloit, Kalamazoo, and then we had roughly 8 students who went to school on the East Coast. Some of these were through early decision applications. So, yeah. And then for the class of 2022, we've actually received some good news already. 5 students have received acceptances through the early decision application round, and 1 was through restrictive early action to an IB. Oh, yes. So on average, we work with students to complete the FAFSA application as well as the CSS profile, which is utilized by private universities. And for an average package, it's usually around $60,000 that students received in scholarships, grants, and loans, the majority of which are scholarships and grants that they don't have to pay back.
Next slide. College, just our college student GPAs. As you can see, our students are above the Schuler average. So I just want to applaud the teachers here, the school that we have, and the curriculum that we have, because it's proven our students will tell us it's really difficult here. That trial does work when they get to college. So graduation rate. Right, and just one very generous change to our program is that Jack Schuler has increased the support for undocumented students. It used to be more under wraps, but he's overtly said we're going to support undocumented students, and it has increased the scholarship to about $15,000 per year to cover the federal funds that they are unable to obtain, plus any state funds and more. And then we increased the Schuler scholarship. So a student who graduates from here and attends a Schuler institution, instead of the $1,000 scholarship they used to receive, they will be receiving $2,500 per year. Jack Schuler. Right, and then there's a scholarship expansion to also include the health insurance, as health insurance tends to be one of those surprise hidden fees of the institution. So Schuler is helping support eliminating that barrier of the health insurance fee. Also offering some grants to support students in applying for graduate schools as well. So our program is not just a college access program, it's also beyond in the support during college and then afterwards in career opportunities. Next slide. And then Schuler has created this education fund, which is also a new update to support top-tier institutions. So one of the initiatives is to increase engagement of young alumni, and they were working with 5 institutions, including my alma mater, Bates College, and I think your alma mater, Williams, as well, to start taking note of data and information to get young alumni to donate. And if young alumni reach a certain threshold of donations, Schuler will provide some kind of monetary donation to the institutions, I think about $500,000. So it was a great incentive, and all those institutions met that requirement. And so Schuler is now looking for more institutions to be able to support. There's also another access initiative of trying to get more students who are undocumented present at these institutions as well, and also low-income students. So we're not only doing that through the program side, but we're also doing that in terms of our donations and support of the college partners that we have. Next slide. And so just the general goal is to just improve access of low-income first-generation students to these wonderful selective institutions. And it's proven that our students tend to succeed at those institutions at rates of just a mid-year progress that we have currently. It's been a very difficult year, as we all know, we've all lived. So what we're doing is we're fine-tuning our group programming to be more community-centered. We are also honing and building resiliency skills for our students. We're going to be tweaking those programming pieces to be able to fit those needs of students. We're in closer partnership with Warren in terms of our mental health resources and making sure that the experts are able to work with our students when they need that support. And some of our challenges is that transition to in-person learning and students still adjusting to testing, as this is their first finals in quite a while. For freshmen, it's their first real finals. And then tweaking our mental health support. So working very, very hard with that, and that's a journey, a lifelong journey, really. Next slide.
Great program. Thank you so much. Next up on the agenda is just an update on the joint conference report. Really, I just want to thank Tony DeMonte for representing Warren as our IESAB delegate. And I don't know, Tony, if you got anything to say about the meetings, but really, I just want to say thank you for your time in representing us.
Did not come prepared for that.
No, not asking. It's really just to say thank you. That's all. What's that? You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to thank you. That's all.
No,
That's okay. There's always next week. Yep. Next up is kind of a standing item that we always have, and that's board member topics for future meetings. And the one thing I wanted to bring up, we've got a couple important topics on the agenda tonight. We've got the tax levy. We're voting on a contract for a new superintendent. So once we get past that, let's catch our breath. But let's not lose our traction because we still got a big event coming up in June. So let's take all our energy and focus on getting the facts and information out to the community on the June referendum. So let's not lose track of that. Let's get a lot of energy behind that. With that being said, next up is committee reports.
Dr. Keeley, Safety Committee on November 30th, I guess it was.
We held our annual safety committee. The past few years, we have started to meet twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. At our first meeting this year, we quickly reviewed our plan. There were really no substantive changes, with the exception we changed some communication between buildings should a crisis occur between O'Plain and Almond. There was a slight change there. Detective Lazaro also suggested that we review our relocation plans with our teams in the buildings. We actually accomplished that today. The deans and I, Detective Lazaro and some other Gurnee police officers met just to review our relocation plans, make sure they're still solid and in place. We'll be reviewing those with the management teams shortly. We will again review our safety plan again in April-ish, is usually when we have our second meeting. That's it.
Thanks, Pat. Geo, Curriculum Committee.
The curriculum committee met, and the topics of our curriculum committee meeting was the summer school program for 2022. Mr. Karasek's going to talk more about that during new business. And the other main topic of conversation at our curriculum committee meeting was the work the instructional services department has done to bring student voice into our curriculum writing process moving forward, beginning with our curriculum writing cycle that's going to start in the spring semester. So we reviewed the work that was done by our assistant principals with the committee. The committee felt good about the questionnaire and the process that we laid out, and we're going to start moving forward with that in the spring, and then we'll work with our lead teachers to continue to get better at including the student perspective in our curriculum writing and development of course materials.
Thank you, Gio. Next up is the superintendent's report.
Yeah, so we have a number of items. The attendance, enrollment, and discipline reports for November are in the board packet for the board's review. Did Lauren show up from student council? I don't think she did. She said she might not. So we were scheduled a student leadership report, but we're going to push that off till January as well. She said there was a chance they might not be doing that tonight. We do have a department report from World Language, and I think Lena Rendell and Amy Mason are here to give that report.
Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening. My name is Lina Rangel, and I am the Spanish teacher and lead teacher at the Almond campus.
And I am Amy Mason. I'm the lead teacher at the O'Plain campus and French teacher.
And we will begin our presentation on the next slide, just speaking a little bit about who we are in the department. Currently, we have 24 different electives from French, Spanish, and German. We have 1,987 students currently enrolled in our program and a total of 18 teachers in our department.
For some main department goals, one of our important goals is to incorporate actful modes of communications into our curriculum, which will align our curriculum to state and national standards. And what we are doing as we renew curriculum over the past several years and look forward to doing this in the future is we're focusing on what students can do with language. Students typically take our classes because they would like to speak a language, and so we want to help them reach their goal. The actful modes of communication, when we refer to those, you see those in the white graphic, and it looks at supporting the 4 language learning areas of listening, speaking, reading, and writing, through what you interpret, through listening, viewing, and hearing, what you use your interpersonal skills when you are speaking and writing with others, and presentational skills, speaking and writing and visually representing things in another language. And we also work to incorporate our 5 C's, which are located in the bottom there as part of the national and state standards as well. A couple changes of note that we have this year in our freshman class this year. We have some students from the District 50 dual language program. So this is the first group of students who went through the K-8 dual language program, and we have 92 students from that program who have been enrolled in our Spanish Language Arts and Culture program at the Eau Plaine campus. And this is the first year in which our German program is being phased out. German 1 is not being offered this year. Students who are currently in the program have the option of taking German 2, 3, and 4 to finish their program. And we are offering those classes this year in conjunction with Illinois Virtual High School. We offer French classes at both campuses to cover French 1, 2, 3, and 4 AP in both college prep and the honors levels. Last year during remote learning, we are particularly proud of our students who put themselves out there in a difficult situation to take the AP French exam, and we had six students do that. We also had over 40 students sign up to voluntarily take the National French exam, which is a national level exam that students take, and we are extremely proud of our students who received 5 medals and 17 honorable mentions, and we're very courageous about taking that again during a remote learning situation. And we also encourage our students to be involved in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. A couple ways that they do that is through our French National Honor Society, which just inducted 18 members this fall, and through French Club, which is run by student officers who plan and conduct cultural activities outside of the class for their classmates. And here are some in-class and outside of class opportunities that we offer for our students. This year, as I mentioned, we have Honors German 2, Honors German 3, and Honors German 4 in the AP class. Next year, we will offer the level 3 and 4 AP classes. And as I said, the students are currently taking German through the Illinois Virtual High School.
This slide, you can see the Spanish courses that we offer at both Eau Plaine and Almond. The biggest difference, as you can see, is we have Spanish 1 through 4 at both, depending on the building that we're in. At Eau Plaine, we have the Spanish Language Arts and Culture. That class is for any student who speaks Spanish at home, and then also for the students who came in from the dual language, who completed the dual language in middle school. Those students in the Honor Spanish Language Arts and Culture will move on into our AP Spanish Language and Culture as juniors, and the goal will be that they will move into AP Spanish Literature as seniors. Next slide, please. So here are some highlights, something that we're, like as Ms. Mason said, that we are very proud of our students being in a remote setting. We had 65 students take the AP exam in Spanish. Our state averages was a 4.4. Out of the 65 students, we had 21 students score a 5, 24 score a 4, and we did get 9 students to take the AP Spanish Literature exam, and our state average was a 3.4. We did have 1 student earn a 5, the majority were 4s, and our lowest scores were 3s, something that we're very, very proud of as a department. As we said earlier, we do encourage students to be engaged inside and outside of the classroom, and for that reason, we are happy that we are able to offer these opportunities to students. One of them being the Spanish National Honor Society. We inducted 58 students this year. And then Avanza Future Latino Leaders. They have 2 big projects going on for spring semester, the National Hispanic Institute and the Chicano College Bowl. And then a Spanish club, which we advertise, hoping that they can get exposed to the culture in various Spanish-speaking countries. All of these organizations, the Avanza and Spanish, they're both led by students. These are some of the photos that we have from the induction of Spanish and then engagement inside and outside of the classroom. Another thing that we are very proud of in our department is that we continue to offer our students the opportunity to go for the State Seal of Literacy or the Commendation. The State Seal of Literacy is, we offer it to qualifying juniors and seniors. In the past, it was only for seniors. Now we open it for juniors and seniors. And it's their opportunity to demonstrate their proficiency in English and along with the language of their choice. Those students who do not meet the criteria, and I'll explain the criteria in a moment, if they don't meet the criteria for the state, then they will also receive a seal under diploma, but it is the commendation, a state commendation, which is also a recognition which states that they're moving towards proficiency, and a lot of universities are accepting both the state and the commendation. So for the requirements, a student will demonstrate their proficiency in English by either taking the SAT score, well, I'm sorry, by taking the SAT score and earning a 480. So if the student earns a 480 on their SAT score, then that's how they demonstrate their proficiency in English. For the students in our ELL program, they have to receive a 4.8 in their ACCES exam. For the language of their choice, they have to earn an I-5, which is an intermediate high, on the 4 different skills, which are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. If they receive the intermediate 5s, then they earn the seal. If they receive anything lower than a 5, then they receive the commendation. Another way of receiving the seal without taking one of the exams that we administer is by earning a 4 or a 5 in their AP exam. And we do administer 2 exams, one of them for Polish, which is called the stamp exam, and the other one is the APLO exam for all the other languages. Here are our numbers from last year. We had 182 students qualify, and they actually assessed. They took either the stamp or the APLO, and here are the number of seals that we were able to award the students. As you can see, we gave a lot of seals, and we are very happy that now the students are now feeling comfortable enough to not just go for the Spanish class that they're taking or French, but now they're opening the doors to the languages that they speak at home. So.
As we look ahead for the next couple of years, we will continue to encourage our students to learn new languages and develop good habits as global citizens. We will continue to support our students and our teachers in their quest to learn new languages and develop proficiency. And we will encourage students to use their language skills to their benefit through such things as the AP tests, the State Seal of Biliteracy, and the language-specific tests such as the National French exam. And we are really pushing our students to develop a cultural awareness and knowledge that they can use and participate in a global society. So, thank you for your time this evening.
Nice. Nice job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We want to see those Avante kids back there.
Oh, we will be back.
Yeah.
We're back.
Let's
stronger
get that
than
college
ever.
bowl.
Yes.
Come on.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. And we're going to turn it over to Dr. Engel for the Treasurer's Report.
Good evening, everyone. Next slide. Next slide. So I'm going to give a quick fund balance breakdown of where we currently are. The balance as of November 30th is about $45.8 million. Our debt service is around 3.6, gives us a total of $42.2 million. $42.2 million minus out capital projects of negative $700,000 brings us back up to 42.9. Minus out the restricted working cash bonds of about $10 million remaining, brings us to $32.9 million. This is the highest it's been. We're at approximately 47% of our annual revenue as of right now. And if you compare it to prior years, about 12 years ago, we were at about 50.2%. Next slide. So here's an updated Treasury report for November ending. If you compare last year's to where we are this year as far as revenues, this year so far.
Next slide.
Oh, sorry, go next slide. Nope. Revenues right now, we're at about grand total cash on hand about 45.8 million. Revenues are about 33.8. Compared to last year, we're at about 31.5. Expenditures are also up compared to revenues. We're at 24.6 million. Last year at about $22 million even. Right now, we're about $9.2 million ahead of where we were so far year to date, and last year at this time, we were about 9.5. Next
So
slide.
is that being driven by like our transportation cost is up this year? But the revenue.
Costs are definitely
the
up.
revenue timing?
We're doing projects, transportation is running full bore, food service is going. There's a lot of influx of federal money also coming into the pot this year. Kind of going back to the old adage, Lake County is finally kind of with some consistency doing tax distributions on time versus in prior years, they weren't really, they weren't doing it as well. So, which brings me right into this next segment right now. If you look at the projected year-to-date revenues, we should be trending right around 45%. We're actually at 52% year-to-date. Local sources, we should be trending right around 50. We're at 54. And this is all outside state sources as well. We're actually up about 11%. We should be tracking right around 31. We're at 42%. Next slide.
just a percentage of dollars we're gonna get.
Correct, yep,
We're not 11% ahead in the dollars. We're not increasing by 11%.
correct. We're just trending right now. If you look at the actual year to expenditure, right now we're right on track. We should be right around 38% of total budget. We are there. Again, salaries and benefits, we should be right around 34%. And again, we're at 32.97. And including special ed and other objects, we should be right around 46%. We're at 48.64. So we're trending quite nicely right now. Next slide. As you can see, this is the cash flow. The previous month, October, was our peak. And this is kind of the roller coaster coming down. There's not going to be much tax infusions coming in until we start hitting either late April or early May. So it's just it's a slide until then. But so far, if we keep on the same trajectory as we did kind of last year, we should bottom out second, third week there in May. So I don't anticipate any need for tax anticipation warrants for this year. So next slide. Revenue so far for the month of November, at about $2.5 million in revenues, about $4.5 million in expenditures across all funds. Next slide, we're going to go year to date. So far, year to date, we're at about $37.4 million in revenues, and expenditures across all funds at about $27.1 million year to date. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Dr. Keeley, I'll update the board on one little piece of information about a new, or at least a safety conference in March that we'll be hosting with the Lake County Regional Office.
The Lake County Regional Office was looking for a partner to put on a county-wide safety seminar for the day. We partnered with them and offered the Almond campus because during an institute day when all our staff is over at the Eau Plaine campus. So they'll actually use the Almond campus, and they're basically looking for SROs throughout the county to put on a safety seminar that they haven't done in several years. Michael Carner is working very hard to provide more professional development throughout the county. So we happily partnered with them, and we hope it's going to be a success.
For teachers?
No, SROs, police officers. Yes.
I missed that part, sorry.
When I say SROs, school resource officers.
Thanks, Pat. We also, Mike, had a little update, positive update on our wellness participation.
Yeah, we actually got recognized by the EBC through Gallagher Bassett for achieving our Tier 1 wellness initiative. And we needed to achieve this by having over 50% participation. And our participation was 84% this year. And that is in the wellness, I guess you would call the biometric screening. That's the blood draw this year.
Good news.
That's great. Question, other than wellness, are there any other incentives for the teachers to participate, or?
Oh, definitely. Where there's a monetary incentive, it's tiered coming back from the EBC. We end up getting a rebate coming back. I want to say this year was just over 33,000 we ended up getting back. So we ended up doing gift cards for those that participated.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. We just a few other little things. Since our last meeting, we actually had 3 FOIAs that had come into the district. One was from Steep Steel regarding our leases for our cell towers, antennas, and wireless installation. One was from Chicagoland Construction regarding roofing bids. And one was from James Kime regarding the new superintendent's name and contract. So those were 3 FOIAs that had come in recently from our last meeting. We also had winter hours, just wanted to share with the board. We are going on break for the next couple of weeks. So please, just want to make sure people were aware that the district will be closed on the 24th and 27th, and the district will be closed on the 31st and January 3rd. Other than that, during those days, during the week when we're normally open, we're open to the public, if you will, from 8 to 3. But we still encourage people who are looking for business with any of us to try to email us first, just to make sure we touch base. And then on the 10th of January, we actually have a teacher institute that day, and our students are welcome back for the second semester on Tuesday, January 11th. So some winter hours in there.
I have a question about coming back from winter break. Do we have a protocol for any COVID testing, or they're just going to come back on the 11th?
any parents, any kid gets sick, just like we did before school started, they're supposed to email, contact the nurse. We keep track of any students, at least, that we're aware of. We have a spreadsheet going with any kid who's ever called in, any kid who's complaining symptoms. Is that going to work perfectly? I can't answer that. I'm hoping parents are honest and being direct with us.
Got it?
We're not going to do a test of every student.
We're not mandating a test of every student. That's correct.
Fair enough.
Thanks, Pat. I think that's it for the that was a lot, but thank you very much. I think that's it for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Algrim. Consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda? If not, I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, which includes Exhibit A, Personnel Recommendations, numbers 69 to 73, as posted, and Exhibit B, Athletics and Activity Recommendations, numbers 22B through 24B, as posted. The payment of bills for 12/21/2021 in the amount of $5,281,460.36. The special meeting minutes of November 18th, 2021. The special meeting minutes and executive session minutes of November 8, 2021. November 9, 2021, and December 2nd, 2021, and the acknowledgement and acceptance of gifts to the district.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Bring us on to new business. First topic under the agenda is approval of employment contract for a new superintendent of schools. Does anybody on the board have any other questions or comments on this?
Second. Oh, motion. Go ahead.
I move to approve the employment contract for Dr. Daniel Woosman as Superintendent of Schools for Warren Township High School District 121 as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Drake. Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
There we go. So I just want to spend a second and give a brief outline of the process of what it took to get here for people not familiar with it. This whole process started back in June of this year. We engaged the services of Dr. Patricia Vignard, who I'd like to thank immensely for her help. She's from the Illinois Association of School Boards, and she acted as a recruiter for this process, if you will. First step was we took a survey. The survey was completed by the board, and then we also sent the survey out to the community, to staff, parents, and key community members, just to get their input. What we wanted to do was develop the traits that we had in mind for our ideal candidate. And from this, we put together an announcement of vacancy. We received over 40 applicants, candidates from across the country. We even had candidates fly in for interviews. So we had quite the breadth of the search. Dr. Vignard and her team analyzed and discussed the candidates, and they did the initial round of interviews. From that, the board got to meet with 6 candidates. And in those 6 candidates, we interviewed them all over 2 days, and we asked them all the same identical questions. That way they had the same, ability to respond to the same questions. From there, we narrowed the list down to 2 candidates, and it was amazing how difficult it was to narrow it down to 2 candidates. I thought we had some extremely well-qualified and good candidates, so it was a tough process. From the final 2 candidates, they were brought back in a couple weeks ago, and they got to meet and answer questions from our stakeholders, and after that, they met with the board one last time. And in this round of interviews, we asked the candidates questions specifically towards their background or questions that we had that we wanted to learn more about them. So it was much more laser focused on the individual candidate, which brings us tonight. Very excited and fortunate to have Danny join us on the Warren Township High School team. Very confident that your experience and your positive energy It's going to be a great addition, not just to our school, but to our entire community. So very glad we're at this point in time, and if you'd like to say a few words, that would be outstanding.
You don't have any handouts, do you?
Goes. Wow, okay. So I'm really grateful to the school board for the opportunity to be here and become part of the team. It's interesting, something I didn't expect tonight was to, as you voted, first of all, I don't often get applause for not having done anything, so thank you everybody for that. But I will say, I think probably an interesting part of my night for me here was just a few minutes ago as you voted and approved the contract, which I'm grateful for. I appreciate the weight that then comes, and I felt it immediately, and Dr. Algrim, I'm sure, understands that and feels that as your current leader. The trust that a community gives to a school district to take care of their children is probably the largest gift that a community gives any organization or group of people here, I think anywhere. High schools are such an important part of our communities, and I'm excited to become part of the Warren community and grateful for that. When the job was posted and I saw it, I immediately was excited to look into this more. But I'll admit, probably the thing that got me was that last night when we did that. I came in for the last round of interviews. Mrs. Love walked me down here to meet with the big group. And then she walked me back after we did that round of interviews. And there were still some students hanging out. And it was getting kind of late. And I was just curious. So I stopped one of the students. Or actually, I stopped and then talked to one of the students who was sitting at one of the tables and on his phone. And I just said, hey, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm just playing around on my phone. And I said, it's kind of late. Like, what's up? Why are you here? And he just kind of looked up. He said, well, it's a good place to be. And then when I sat down next to Principal Parrott, and just chat a little bit here before the meeting started. Got to know him a little bit, and he said, "This is a good place to be." And I do think I think it's a really good place to be, and I appreciate you allowing me to be in this good place, and look forward to being here a lot and learning alongside all the good people that work here to make it a good place. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving forward, trying to top that, we've got the approval of the summer school program for 2022. Yeah. Wow, tough crowd.
Thank you for that, by the way. So, I'll be brief, okay? So, you all have the memorandum for the summer school program. So, I just want to go over some highlights so that everybody's on the same page and understands what's going on. This year, summer school will be at the Old Plain campus again. It starts June 6th and will go through July 14th. It's going to run for an entire 6 weeks. Health, again, what we've learned from a couple of years ago is that we're going to do it asynchronously through Canvas so that our students can participate at a higher level. So that'll start June 7th and go through the 8th, or June 6th and go through the July 14th as well. Also, registration for summer school will begin January 11th at 8 o'clock a.m. It's going to be a Google form, kind of because we've transitioned over our business platform. That's the way we're going to be doing registrations. We will be doing remediation courses through Edgenuity, which is a purchase program that we were using in summer school last year. It worked out really well for us, so we're going to continue to do that. Advancement courses and seminars are going to be teacher taught and in person. The remediation courses are in person as well. We are adding a new course called Algebra Skill Building. It's going to be exclusively for incoming 9th grade students, and it's going to be invitation only. And then additionally this year, because of the increase in federal funding from the American Rescue Plan grant, the tuition for summer school is going to be free for students who want to participate. So if you have any questions,
I have a question. So if they take health asynchronously, then that means they could fill up 4 hours of the day doing something else.
correct. Well,
But whatever, I mean, there's 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the length of the day is. So they could take one more full class.
well, they could take like an algebra class coming in as well, right? So, and they're doing it on their own time. We have teachers that are available during that time period. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have to attend a class.
They do not have, no, they're
So
doing
they
the
could
work on
spend
their own.
morning doing other classes.
Correct,
Which
yes.
is good. I'm
Yeah.
just making sure I
Yeah,
understand.
that's correct.
Can you go back to, what is it that there's no cost for?
Everything.
Everything,
Oh, so the
Including
summer school they won't be
transportation.
paying for.
correct.
Okay,
That's the ESSER funding, correct?
ESSER 3.
Yep.
that's wonderful.
That's the money we spend and then get. Reimbursement program. Right, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mike, next I think on the agenda is the transfer.
We need a motion and
I'm
a,
sorry.
Yeah.
sorry. I move to approve the summer school program 2022 as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Second by Anderson. Mr. Demonte? Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
And Mr. Schultz? Yes. 5 yes, motion carries.
No, on to Dr.
Yep,
Engel.
sorry about that. Mike, next is the resolution for the transfer.
Yeah, I'm going to give a little bit of history. Back in November 2018, the Board of Education refunded working cash bonds that generated an additional $23 million to take care of multiple capital projects throughout the district and to help with cash flow and future projects. On June 23rd, 2020, the district used the working cash in lieu of tax anticipation warrants. The transfer amount was $6 million. This transfer needs to be repaid back. So we don't have an audit finding coming up at the next audit. We are going to be transferring it back, but that does not mean that we can't retransfer it when we need it again. It just resets the clock, if you will. So a copy of the resolution's attached within there, and we're asking the Board of Education to approve the transfer of the educational funds to the working cash fund tonight.
Any questions from the board members on this transfer? Now I move to approve the resolution directing the transfer of funds from the Educational Fund of Township High School District Number 121, Lake County, Illinois, to the working cash fund of said school district.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next up is more information on our roof repairs.
All right, so the district went out for a roof repair bid. We used Crowley and Associates for our roofing consultant. The bids were publicly open on December the 6th, 2021 at 3 p.m. There were a total of 4 bids that were submitted, and we're asking the Board of Education at this time to reject all the bids. Our roofing consultancy, Crowley and Associates, determined that there was an error in the bid specs, which caused the bids to be submitted incorrectly. If you guys all remember, this is also part of the matching funds through the state for the school project maintenance grant and the $50,000 additional, so.
What was the error in the specs?
The amount of flashing, the linear flashing feet was way off. Quite a bit, almost 3 times off.
Who found the error?
Scott Gordon, the associate of C.E. Crowley, and of course, it was made aware after the bids were open because we're anticipating somewhere between the $200,000 to $225,000 mark, and they were much higher, as you can see. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I move to reject all roof repair bids as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Schultz, second by Drake. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next up is a discussion on the special education transportation.
Yeah, the next 2 items, Mike's going to just give a little bit of overview. Jean Turf and her staff out at our transportation department have been working very hard this year. as you can all imagine, and there's been a lot of news about driver shortages and things that are real to us. So Mike just wants to talk a little bit about our special ed transportation program and process, if you will, and then it leads into a lease for our regular ed buses for next year.
So currently, right now, we're utilizing taxi services and the tune of about $80,000 a month to transport students to and from their school locations. We're looking at some ideas of kind of bringing this back in-house and using vans that the district had used once prior, and trying to, we have three main goals. It's the cost savings and to help keep costs down and create a driver pipeline and continuity of services for our students and families. Those are our three main goals here that we're trying to accomplish. And we're wanting to have a dialogue here with the board to kind of look at the possibility of purchasing 2 to 3 vans to kind of act as a pilot program. Our plan is to bring in drivers that are non-CDL, that have a normal driver's license, and of course they would have to pass a couple classes and so on and so forth. But this would help engage our kind of transportation pipeline, meaning if they would like to advance, and have the opportunity to earn additional money, that they can go through the CDL program and then become a full-time bus driver, and there's about a $3 or $4 an hour difference that they could be earning, and it would help, I believe, try to attract some potential drivers that may not be ready for a bus, but actually want to start driving, and then kind of build up that pipeline so we can actually have a full bus fleet again. We're piecemealing it together right now. It's stretched. So.
We use any taxi service right now?
Oh, we are, several.
So would this eliminate any of that cost? Like we would eliminate some of that
correct.
service and cost?
Right now, we're spending about $80,000 a month. The break even.
Wait, 80?
80,000. The break-even point, we would need a grand total of 17, but we want to kind of do a proof of concept first, make sure, okay, we're able to get the drivers, make sure that, okay, we're transporting our own students, we're getting them to and from. We've looked at 3 different kind of types of transportation configurations, including 4 Transit Connect 6-passenger vans, 4 Transit 10-passenger vans, and the Toyota Sienna 8-passenger vans. We've taken into consideration the amount of students that are able to be transported, the miles per gallon, and the cost of the vehicle. Right now, this year is going to be very difficult for any type of state contracting or bids. There are, as of right now, no manufacturers that are participating in the van contract this year through the state. They're all postponed into 2023 when they have the just vehicles that they're able to go through the program. Chrysler's not participating, Ford's not participating, GM's not participating this year, and those are the 3 large ones. So these 2 to 3 vehicles would have to be purchased and sourced in the open market versus going through a state bid. So to kind of go back to your question there,
What about leasing?
we would be over on miles really quick. Some of these routes are 125 miles a day, so it would be pretty close. So what we're looking at right now, this is just operationally speaking, our payback would be about 1.5 years with 17 fully operational vans going to and from, and that's with our current price structuring and paying our employees and everything else for it. But we wanted to kind of do baby steps first, like a proof of concept, 2 to 3. And if it works out pretty well, 5.
See if you can even find drivers.
Exactly, and see what it's going to take and kind of take it from there. And then if everything works out well, another 5 to 8 this summer, and then next year kind of continue on. Yes.
In age of COVID, I wasn't sure if we should be sharing mics. I'll stay farther back. So it makes sense from a cost savings perspective to run our own vans. I do worry or wonder a little bit about availability of, just general people in the workforce. There's always been a shortage of drivers, even prior to now. So that part's in my head. But the actual question I have is, I'm just assuming when we take a van, there's going to be more students on it than there would be in a taxi, let's say. And are the numbers there of these outplacement locations that we're sending kids to where we're sending enough students or in partnership with 56 or 50, just so that it's local pickups? There's more than what could be on in a cab to save money, but also not increase the time in which kids are spent being transported. Coming from a perspective of these are kids with special needs are so severe that they need to attend a special placement. And then I'm just trying to think, if you're putting 8, 10 kids on a van, what does that look pickup-wise? Does that increase the amount of time? You know, these are kids possibly that may have a hard time just with the length of transport. Schools aren't necessarily close. So I guess I'm curious, you may not have an answer for this. In analyzing this model, does it increase transportation times for the kids?
The transportation times would be actually a little bit reduced, and these are just for students that are going to be transported anywhere from a single student up to 4 students, okay? We would still utilize anything 4 or 5 students and beyond. We would still use our actual buses themselves. And another point that you're kind of bringing up, I think, is right now, they're just ordinary cars that are being driven to and from, and most of them are just transporting 1 student at a time right now. So we would have some economies of scale being able to do 2. You know, of course, there'd be pickups at the house to pick up the students, but it's not 1 at a time. You know what I mean?
The third part of that was I'm pretty sure we've since retired the van, but I used to be so proud, and I think I've said this once before, driving down, looking over and seeing a white van that said 50, 56, and 121. Like I just, you know, as a board member that just with multiple taxing bodies going in together to transport potentially to the same school with kids that live generally in the same area, that just felt good. I don't know if that was actually, you know, if it made any sense, but it just as a taxpayer, it felt nice. Is there any discussion of our local neighbors, or is this purely, do we lose some sense of control and it's just better for us to run our own, at least in the pilot stage, or?
As of right now, this would be Warren right now, but we do partner a lot with 56.
Sure.
But this would be a Warren right now kind of situation that we would be trying to overcome some of our cost obstacles, if you will. I just want to talk operationally speaking. Any of the above vehicles that I'd mentioned before would be approximately 1/3 the cost to operate as compared to a small yellow bus, and about 2/3 the cost of what it costs to outsource a taxi. So there's immediate immediate savings right away versus a taxi. The other added benefit as well is we could still claim the 5 years of depreciation on the transportation reimbursement claim for all the vehicles, and the vehicle life expectancy is right around 10 years. So that's huge. I mean, we can depreciate 100% of the vehicle over 5 years. So and of course, this being special ed has a reimbursement rate of about 80% coming back to the district.
Do we have any liability concerns with transporting all our kids around through with taxis?
The taxis have insurance. As far as define your liability concern for.
I'm thinking some of these students might need more than typical care getting in and out of the taxi. Are the taxi drivers aware of that? Do they have any additional training where our drivers might be more aware of that?
Some students that are in the taxis also have an aide, a one-on-one aide that's with them, that's assigned to them, and they go to and from. So it's not necessarily the taxi driver themselves, but it's typically the aide that's with them.
Any confidential concerns having a student learn where another student lives? Picking up multiple students kind of thing, and I guess, well,
right now
today it's a bus stop.
Yeah,
And they're doing the same thing with transportation, like regular ed.
And
It's a bus
special
stop
ed
instead of a house, though.
Well, those are going to be regular ed students, and you typically special ed is doorstop pickup. So.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's door to door.
It sounds like, I mean, on the surface, it sounds like a good idea. I mean,
Especially like your idea of,
Dipping
like,
your
let's
toe
take a
in.
little
Yeah,
small step first, see
baby
how it
step.
works.
Michael, keep working in that direction, and we'll see if we can get a few vans going.
What I'd like to see is, if we talk about this again before we would like to make a motion, I would like to see the math.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It sounds like you've
Yeah,
been doing it.
I've ran it a couple
Yep.
different times in
Yep,
different ways.
I'd like to see the whole payback and what all the numbers look like.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you, Dr. Engel.
Next is actually the lease, I believe.
Okay, so the next action item that you have in front of you is for the 3377 passenger 2022 international conventional buses at the, at the annual lease rate of, at $18,101 times the 33 units is $597,333. To give you a little bit of background, we bid this out. We went to all three bus manufacturers, and this is kind of a pressing thing, if you will. We run diesel buses with air brakes. Right now, there is as you guys know, there's a vehicle shortage, and it's even more so with buses, if you will. There's chassis shortages and everything else. So typically, this type of thing happens in February or March. But to get into the wait list and order so we have these buses on time to start out the next school year, we need to get this in as soon as humanly possible. So, like I said, we had three. We sent it out to all three manufacturers, Thomas, Bluebird, and IC. IC was the one that responded. Bluebird put in a no bid, and Thomas was not taking bus orders until 2023. So right now, we're asking the Board of Education to approve the bus lease from November 22nd, 2021.
I know we had a short conversation on this over the phone. What's to prevent us from using the buses another year? Is there any way to extend the lease? Because they've had a lot less miles put on them over the last couple of years.
Right now, we went back and forth with the state board and through the transportation department there. Financially speaking, everything would be no longer depreciable. Okay, we couldn't put on our depreciation list anymore. The second part was everything is now fully out of warranty. Even the powertrain and bumper-to-bumper part is fully gone, and those expenses would have to be on us. Those could not be outside or outsourced expenses anymore. Going back to this, everything's included under the umbrella, and we're at the point of it's cheaper long-term to go with a newer one than trying to extend this out one more year, not knowing what the cost could be on replacing a transmission, anything at that point. And if you look at where we came in, we were actually anticipating being right around $19,000. It actually came in at $18,101, which is a little bit better than what I had originally anticipated it being. And if you will notice also, this actually calls for, I believe, 4 fewer buses than last time. We actually were to reduce the fleet from 37 down to 33 with some efficiencies on those routes as well.
Questions? If not, I move to approve a bus lease with Midwest Transit Equipment for 33 2022 international conventional 77-passenger buses.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez? Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is we're not going to go through in detail tonight. For the board's review, we've included the results from our recent communications survey report. Just going to talk a little bit about, we get about 500 people respond, so that's a good number that got back to us. And just a few things that we had pulled off of it was still people are counting on our direct emails and direct communication to them as our primary source of information. The web page itself was kind of like the second place that people would go, and Facebook came in about, I think it was at about 16%. So people are still getting information, a secondary piece from social media. Other things that we kind of looked at right away were just some things that, most people had. Obviously, one of the reasons we wanted to make sure was that people were aware of the referendum, right? Well, when you look at those questions, between 60 and 70% of the people are aware. But that also means, right, that there's, 35 or so % of people that may not be aware. So obviously, there's room to continue to try to inform people. And then there are a couple of just direct things that we had realized was just some simple things that in the comments made us start to change some things immediately or longer term. Example of that is we send out a lot of emails, and that was both a plus and a minus, that we send a lot of communication out to our families through email. But, part of the comments in there were just, it helps if they know a subject line in all of them, just because they'll know then there are some of them that they know right away they want to go to or they don't want to go to. So internally on our end, we're going to try to make sure we just try to give them a little immediately, just a little more look at what that communication is about. So, and there's also some information in there about our website. It's been a number of years since we've had our committee review our website, but it probably is at least worth looking at just to see if it needs any kind of upgrades, especially what mentioned as regards to our athletic website. People found that a little harder to navigate. So, but please encourage the board, if you haven't gone through that, start to go through that information.
Yeah, I was impressed with the amount of really good constructive feedback we got. The one question I had, because there was quite a few comments about all the COVID emails, are those required to send out, or are those optional?
They're really not. Last year, part of it is, and some people stopped sending them out. Early on, people were trying to make a decision about what to send out and close contacts, or do you just send it out to the classroom of kids, or just to those people that were impacted? And people they still are. Schools are all over the place in terms of when they decided to send the information out to our school community. We, from the get-go, were just saying, well, it's on our end. We said, if people want to know, we'll send it out to them. We try to reference it now on our webpage we do have, 4,500 people that are here every day. So you might look at a number and say, 10 people were positive today, but you take that in the reference of our 4,500 people. So we've decided to keep sending it out only because we have been all along, and we didn't want people to think all of a sudden we've stopped sending it out for any reason. We thought that might draw more questions as well.
I like that we send it out.
Yeah,
And I don't like that we send it out all the time, so different opinions. It goes out every day. People aren't reading it for the most part, and it's just getting to be background noise. I still think we should communicate what's going on with COVID, but maybe we should readdress the frequency of it.
Yeah, that's why we built the dashboard.
I have the same comments. Well, there's starting to be a trend. Problem is when I get not legitimate. I did wonder, now that we're halfway through the year,
We could look at a, end of the week summary.
Yeah, and I don't know what the solution is, but I had the same question.
Well, to the point of just trying to, if the first lens of that we took was, well, if we don't want people to have to look hard to figure out what that communication is. So for the last 2 weeks, you've seen at the top of those, it says COVID case communication.
I like
So if people want it, there it is. If they don't, at least it makes it easier for them to ignore. And to Tony's point, not miss something important that they may need to find, so.
Yeah.
Rising numbers.
Possibly a few weeks into January, it might be a good time to reevaluate how. At some point, we have to transition to the same way that we probably communicate other things.
And we would still have an obligation. We would still have an obligation to communicate to people if indeed there was a reason that they needed to know that there were cases in regards to close contacts. We just decided we were going to just send it out school-wide from the beginning. So we'll keep reviewing it. Yeah.
The only other comment I had is that, you mentioned it already, there were a lot of comments about our website being, it's not organized, it's hard to find information. We don't praise our students enough, we don't praise our athletes on the website enough. It's not user-friendly, all things that we know. So I'm just always going to encourage us, I know we don't have a communications director. I'd like to think we have talented students, or if we could reach out into our community and say, hey, is there anybody in the community that can help us with our website? I mean, it's not it's not our number one way to communicate. I mean, that was very clear. People still like the emails, but I think it's trending more and more. And our website it's just not good.
And more than anything, even with that, we still first direct people to, and we need to direct people to our website as where they can go to get information. So it did, yeah, and there may be more tools. I mean, granted, every few years when we looked at this one, right, that was a few years ago. And I think it was 17 maybe. It was a few years ago that we did it, and so things do change over time.
Thank you.
One is, I think that they were also saying that the information there is old. So some of the teams aren't even updating their data. So at that point, it's worse. It shouldn't even be there then. So I think if we don't get, and maybe it's time. I'm not saying everybody should be able to do it, but we certainly should, parents go there to see what their kid's doing. And they got last year's team or something. I've done
Yep.
it multiple times.
Yep.
So I think that there has to be a process by which the data is updated.
Real time.
Then, yeah, real time would be nice too. And the other thing is about the survey, I just want to say, we should for sure, we're talking about putting out too much information, but we should put out a document that says, we got your survey, here's what we've done. In mass, I mean, with all the little adjustments we've made and things we've done, because people want to know that. They want to know that they gave input and we listened, that we actually took their advice and made some changes, no matter how small they are.
Great point, John.
There's one more item, I believe, in new business. Gio, will you step up? For the board, we were looking at two things. One is we wanted to make sure we spent all grant money that's available to us. And we also knew that if we could add a few positions just for right now, it would help us in our EL department. These also are positions that are one-year positions. They're really only half-a-year positions, but they're positions that might help us for the remainder of the year that we're looking to add to our one-year positions on our staffing chart. Gio?
So right now, we have about $540,000 in Title I money, where in a normal year, we have about $315,000. When you couple that with ESSER 2 and then additional Title I restrictions, of course, since we're a targeted program, it's very difficult to spend that money. When we did an analysis of our current EL staffing and our EL program needs, you can utilize Title I money to help fund your EL program. And we are understaffed in our EL department. We need additional EL teachers. As we looked at it, we felt that a good investment with our title money would be an EL interventionist for the Oak Plain campus to do some of the work similar to our math interventionists and English interventionists are doing right now, but to focus their efforts with our EL students on language acquisition skills and success in their content area classes. And then also a bilingual para for the Oak Plain campus to kind of help support kids in their courses, help with study tables, and again, help with translation and other services that those kids need to be successful here in school. As John said, that would be a half-year position. We'd post, if the board approves, we would post those as soon as tomorrow, so we can hopefully find some qualified people to come in and work with our kids. In the one piece with the bilingual para, that is something that could possibly be there could possibly be enough money in Title I moving forward to fund a bilingual para through Title I, but not for a certified staff member. Those salaries will not fit in a grant in the normal year, but we do need to expend those funds as normally Title I money is limited to a 15% rollover. So at $533,000, we need to make sure that we're spending that money smartly to support our at-risk students. And since it's Title I, it has to be focused on instruction. It cannot be focused on other areas like behavioral intervention or SEL or things of that nature.
And also, just to be very clear, obviously we have over $1 million of an anticipated budget deficit this year. The title funds, the grant funds, can't just be used to supplant current things that we have in place already. They have to be to supplement the things that we're currently paying for. So.
Correct. So a good way to illustrate that is if we have a social studies teacher, we cannot make that social studies teacher all of a sudden pay their salary out of Title I if we paid their salary out of local funds before. We could pay another, so a brand new position that did not exist in the district out of Title money, but we cannot move a locally funded position into a Title grant position.
Questions? If not, I move to approve the fiscal year 22 tentative staffing plan as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Martinez. Mr. Drake.
Yes.
Mr. Demonte. Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Brings us on to old business. The conversation on the levy? If not, I move to approve the resolution authorizing final aggregate tax levy for the year 2021, which includes the certificate of tax levy and separate resolutions for Illinois municipal retirement, Social Security, special education, leasing, and CEDAL, IMRF, and the Board of Education of Warren Township High School District 121, Lake County, State of Illinois.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Drake. Mr. Demonte? Yes. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake? Yes. And Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Referendum update.
Next item is a little discussion about a referendum and just update the board on a few things, get some feedback from board members. I just wanted to, first off, at our last board meeting, some board members had actually asked for some flyers, so we've put just about 25 or so out in front of you. We all can get plenty more than that if you need them. We also have them in Spanish, so if you'd like some in Spanish, they're down in our district office. We'll be happy to get you some of those as well. And also wanted to make sure we mentioned it earlier, just a bit about some of our efforts in our, actually when we went to our 8th grade parent nights on the 30th and 1st, it was awesome just to be able to meet with our 8th grade parents coming in. There's about 1,000 or so people that saw our presentations in English and Spanish over those 2 days. They were obviously a very interested crowd, and they should be. I think they realize they have a lot at stake for their particular sons or daughters who are coming into Warren. So, and obviously starting with the idea of trying to maintain our 8-period school day for them throughout their high school careers, and then jumping into things around athletics and activities, fees and that nature, and academic assistance. So there's a number of things we were trying to communicate to them, and I think actually it was very receptive. We also had a table set up in the gym, and a lot of parents came up afterwards with great questions, great interest. We were expecting a little bit of pushback, if you will, just we were ready for it, just about, why is it, we came here to learn about schedules, but this is what you're telling us. But I think the parents were actually very appreciative because they realized the connection between, that where their son or daughter's academic opportunities are going to be to the referendum information. So I think they made the connection very well, and they were very appreciative of the information. The other thing that I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of, I briefly showed at our last meeting some of our presentations that we did, and those are on we're not going to see those, but I just want to remind the board that we have a next public presentation on January the 12th. That's at the Warren Newport Public Library. Thanks to Mr. Livergard who invited us to come over there. The English is in 6:30 and the Spanish is at 7:30. It'll be, we've revised our slides just a little bit. We updated them a few days ago. We got together and just made some updates where they were appropriate. And so we're excited about that meeting on the 12th of January. We've got a plan to start making sure that's out in the community. It's certainly on our website already, but we've got some social media releases after the new year to make sure people are aware of that, as well as we're probably going to put out a press release or two just to make sure people are aware, because this is kind of a test to try to see whether people will join us at other locations in the community. Because we'd obviously, if people go there, we'll move it all around to make sure that we can garner an audience. Reminder to board members, as early as tonight, certainly when we have these meetings, we love your presence there. And without, you can have 2 of us there.
2 or 3.
We can have 2 of us there. but without having to post it as a meeting, which obviously we aren't intending to. But if you could just kind of work with each other to see which two board members would like to be at that presentation. And then at our next board meeting, this is actually the only one before our January board meeting. So what I think we would do is our January meeting, look ahead to the next few dates that are on there, just kind of knock it off one meeting kind of at a time. So, even as, by the end of tomorrow or whatever, if board members can let me know, maybe on their calendar, whether they can make the 12th and which two board members would like to attend, that would be great. So that's kind of just in general about the 12th. One thing that's related to this, it's down the road, but it is related to for the board, that I want to make sure we've talked a little bit about, because the piece of our June meetings, the referendum is on June 28th. That's one of our two regularly scheduled board meetings in June. And we could do that, but the dates are the 14th and the 28th currently. But one thing we also talked about was the fact that for a couple of reasons, we only really need one meeting that month. And so we might want to have it on the 21st of June, which allows us then to not have it on the night of the referendum. It's fine from us from an approval perspective to get business done. It also, obviously, the other reason we had two meetings in June prior was because one of them was about our strategic planning for next year. Well, obviously, when I came in, I was fortunate enough that we did that in September or October, my first year in. So with Danny here now, it may be something you guys want to work through with him about planning it out, in September or October. So moving that meeting a little bit later in the fall and just having one business meeting, if you will, on the 21st of June. If you guys are.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
All right, we'll start working on our end in that direction. So, and that's, I think that's generally, but I also want to make sure board members jump in here with anything regarding referendum.
Yeah, the one comment I wanted to ask the board, because I'd shared this with Dr. Algren before, is we have this list of 12 or so presentations coming up, and we've already had, I think, 18 or so. And a lot of the feedback I get is that the board and the administration is not doing enough to get the information out. I'd almost like to see everything we've done already on the website, and I'd like to see this whole list on the website. So if somebody goes on there and says, hey, I'm looking for dates, right now we see January 12th. I'd like to see all the dates, past and future. So that way, if I look at that, I go, holy tamales, they've got 24 to 30 opportunities to touch the community. We know that, but we have to make sure everybody knows that, because perception is reality sometimes. So if people are coming to us and saying we're not doing enough, 30 touch points is a lot. I think we need to promote that more so people realize, no, we are working hard to get the information out.
Yeah, the other thing that we're not quite done with, but we've started, we're probably midway through it, is in addition to just these information presentations, there's also on that same kind of calendar of things that are out there. We every month for the last several months and for the next 6 months have been in our Warren Connection. We've had a lot of articles focused in on the referendum in our Warren Connection. We've had direct communication going out to our families, like our 8th grade parents, about course registration and how the referendum impacts it. So direct information sending is another way. Social media, right? Allowing us to have regularly scheduled social media updates are another way. So in our website, you're right, Paul. So what we were trying to work through was kind of a 6-month plan in those overarching categories. This is just one aspect, but it is an important aspect only because it is the opportunity for people to face-to-face ask questions, get the kind of feel for it, and and challenge us a little bit on some things that we're trying to give them information on.
The problem is always that you can usually reach the students, right, and their families, if you try, which is what we're doing. We're doing a good job of reaching all of them, right? And the hard part is to reach the people that aren't connected with the school, who might be our friend. And I think that's the people that always come up to you and go, I didn't know anything about this. And we don't understand how, because we've been talking for 2 years, but a lot of people aren't looking up, and I don't have any ideas. I'm just saying, that's the nut right there. If you can crack that one, if we can get to those people, not even all of them, just a portion of them, I think we could do better, which I think is a lot of what's going to come at the end when you get the street signs and the yard signs and the door-to-door and all that kind of stuff is when you meet a lot of those people. This kind of stuff, you know, you're not gonna get John Q. Public is gonna pay attention to this most likely. I don't think. I hope they do, but I think most of them are gonna, you know, we're picking up the people we know who are gonna be engaged, which is good. We're doing the right thing. But eventually we have to try to crack the other nut, which I think we will down the road.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking, John, that like, and I'm pulling it up here, the social media site Nextdoor. But there are guidelines around what you're allowed to promote on there, so let me look into that a little bit.
That'd be something the committee could certainly do. The Yes Committee could certainly do that.
The Yes Committee does have their own group, their own page on Facebook, and they have a pretty large audience so far, and they've been doing really good about the communication that they've been posting. I also know, like I'm in a couple parent Facebook community groups, and I know that the task force team is also posting in those areas. Yeah, but I do think that with like the Nextdoor, if there's someone who posts there is good, but if someone also posts on there and it's in a negative regard, someone who already has the knowledge or the background education to what we're trying to do is responding with the positive, like that's always a good point there too.
There's been a lot of back and forth on Nextdoor.
Yeah.
To kind of counteract the negative.
Yeah.
By myself, Beth has been on there. I've probably posted 70 times.
One other thing
They
I
go
didn't want to
fast.
forget, because Dr. Keeley has worked extremely hard at this, was we normally, just in general, you know, when our seniors are graduating, have an interest in making sure they realize the value in just voting. And so voter registration is always kind of on our radar when we get to spring, and we try to have set that up. So, but I think Pat's been trying to work just to make sure that whoever it is, if we're giving information sessions regarding, you know, just the referendum, that people are also aware of the process it takes to get registered to vote if they're not already. So thanks to Pat, he's made some inroads with the county and with library as an example, just to make sure that people are aware that that opportunity exists for them as well. And Pat went through the training to register people, and there's others who can do it as well. But you know, it's always nice to be able to say if you're not already registered, regardless which way you vote, but if you're not already registered, right, it's a good thing to vote in every election. So it's good work by Pat.
Could we capture an event where they could be registered, like in an afternoon or an evening, and, you know, a couple of us come in and help and volunteer, so.
I can direct register in the.
Oh, okay.
Outside of the building, I can't direct.
No, I'm talking about like our students who turned 18.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, you do it directly, okay, okay.
Or anyone.
Okay.
Anyone who came to the building, I can
Okay.
register. I can register anyone at any time inside the four walls.
As soon as we have that information secured, we'll put that as part of our information as well. So.
Can we take it as a follow-up, though? Because I like your idea, Paul. Can we get that list on the?
Yeah, we can give the list of things we've done already too. That's, I actually showed,
Yeah.
sure. Yep.
Concert T-shirts, like, just, here's the tour.
Put a referendum calendar or whatever, what we've done and what we're gonna do kind of thing. And John, I think we gotta get more strategic about the rest of the community. Yeah, I think that's a little closer to the election. I think we need to go to the sign route eventually, signs, big signs.
Do we have a database of kids who have recently graduated, their email addresses or home addresses who played sports at Warren that are like a year or two out? The reason I ask is what a great group of people to contact. Sports are at risk. You played sports at Warren. The fear of taxes going up doesn't matter because it's mom and dad's house. So let's contact them.
Well, I know that that the task force is working on an event with recent alumni. I can probably touch base with Aaron or Beth on that and see where that's going and get back to you.
I'm just wondering if we had a database here because this is where they went to school. But yeah, any avenue is great, Natalia. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 They use yes email.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that we learned from last,
What about cell phone numbers? Because in the registration, we ask for the student's cell phone numbers, and if it's like in a text form, like a text notification.
We would have student cell phone numbers. I don't know how long.
Use a little personal
Oh.
access.
So we don't archive like 2 or 3 years or?
We probably have a couple of years.
Okay. Yep.
and from the district's perspective, right, not necessarily outside organizations, but from the district's perspective, generally speaking, a rule of thumb is when we send out communication, we send it out to everybody. So, I mean, it could be that we send it out to all of our, as an example, to all of our sender districts. It's not necessarily everybody in the world, but we just kind of paint it with a broad brush and try to hope that everybody has access to all the information equally. But we will, thanks, if by the end of the week, if we can start to have a couple board members step up on the 12th, that would be great.
I can do the Spanish one.
Yeah, that's another way to think it through, too. I mean, as long as, we can have more than 2 for the night. Are you available that night, Mr. Anderson? Thank you. That's good. And we do have, by the way, we have, the other thing we started doing at the 8th grade nights was we do have 2 Spanish-speaking administrators on our team who were able to give the presentations in Spanish, which was great for questions that came out. We were there, was very natural, authentic. I think they appreciated it in their language, and we like doing it, so it was kind of fun.
Thank you, everyone. Great conversation.
Not to put our newly elected superintendent on the spot.
Oh.
But would you consider joining us?
Yes, I actually put down on my list trying to put those dates.
Thank you.
We only have one more, I think we have one more item on the agenda. It's a quick one, right? There's nothing else.
School update?
Yeah, Pat, anything just in general on, I know our numbers did spike a little bit here at the end, but anything just in general on where we're going? Or
Past 3 weeks, we were at 17, 13, 20, I think, were the last 3 weeks. Don't quote me on that. I anticipate having 30, 35 this week, so we definitely have some more. Over the break, the nurses and I will continue to contact trace. Nurses aren't in the building, but they are working remotely. Athletic director will be in contact with them and myself. Coaches will be able to support that and also keep our contact tracing going. In addition, we will put out an email reminding parents about coming back to school, kind of the question you referred to earlier. Make sure we're safe. If you have any symptoms, please call in. Here's the protocol. Here's where you should test. On the 29th, John and I will be part of a meeting with the Lake County Health Department. They anticipate changes coming to the protocol. I don't know what those are, but they said expect changes. Expect changes to be backing off. That's the changes that are coming.
Say that again?
they do. Yeah.
The way they presented it to us is they were going to be backing off some of the mitigations. So,
No, and I don't, yeah,
but
we don't know.
but we don't know. I'm just telling you what they told us at the last meeting. So, who knows? So unfortunately, we could get a whole basket of new rules, which will cause a lot of new communication over the break, and we will do the best we can to get that out crystal clear as we can to parents so they know what the rules are and our teachers know what the rules are. Maybe nothing will change. You know, we've been down this road before as school starting and changes come a few days before school start. We get a handbook and, you know, we'll do the best we can. We want to keep this safe, keep our doors open, keep kids in school, you know, and we'll continue to do that.
Want to talk a little bit about hockey?
Hockey, we did have, our hockey team had 6 cases, so we shut down hockey for 2 weeks. We identified it very early. Lake County Health Department was very thankful for the work that our nurses did on the case. We were able to contact trace it very quickly, have all the students down, tested them. A few didn't test positive till later, so it was over a couple days, but enough where we worked closely with the coaches and that they took a 14-day pause from their programming. They only missed 1 contest, so it wasn't too bad for the kids as far as missing contests. But obviously, safety is more important.
Can you give me a little bit of since we're talking about last week of school and going into with COVID numbers and everything, can you give me a little bit of information on something that I recently heard that is in regards to students being exempt from finals if they have COVID exposure? And apparently there's a petition going around with the students. Do you have any knowledge to that?
Building principals would handle that,
Oh.
so I defer to Mr. Parrott. You can talk to him after the meeting. Anything else on COVID? Thank you.
Any other old business? Okay, if not, it's our reception of visitors. It's the second time if anybody would like to address the board. Again, you're welcome to your 3 minutes. It's not meant to be a dialogue, but if anybody would like to address the board with any topic or concern that's on their mind, we would love to hear from you. Slow hands going up, so go ahead. Yes, you are.
But you got to come up to the podium twice.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of the questions I had, you guys did answer in your referendum update, and I just wanted to share that I'm really encouraged by the energy and the passion. And I think there's this barrier that we have to figure out how to get through, that awareness barrier, because even though we can do all of the events you have, as a mom who has 3 students at Milburn, there's no way I would hear any of that information if I wasn't proactively looking for it, if I didn't have connections to the Yes WTHS, if I didn't have kids going to the swim team, if I didn't, I have personally a lot of connections. So there's a barrier of awareness that we need to get through, and I think looking creatively at different ways to get to the community is really, really important. Whether it's digital, whether it's text, whether it's QR codes, whether it's social media, next door is really scary. It's really scary. I don't know that it's worth your effort to try and convince people. It's finding the people who are yeses and not yet confirmed. And if you want to vote no, more power to you, that's your choice. But we shouldn't be wasting our energy on them, in my opinion. And I love the idea of more advertising and the voter registrations. And a final idea I had was on your website, if you could put items on there that people could copy and paste and then on their own social media share, and to encourage people to not be scared. It's really nerve-wracking to come to a meeting like this and to speak, but I'm really passionate about it, and I thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate your passion and help. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate you coming up here twice to speak, so
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yes, group. They all work here. We don't get too many friends from outside the school. That's why we're glad you came, so.
It is
Great to see your
it is
energy.
thankless work working with those
And you're connected with the
damn
Yes-
children.
With the Yes group, correct?
I am.
Okay.
I am, yes. Thank you. I wouldn't have known about the meeting tonight had it not been for them. Speaking of the website, the calendar, that main page calendar, it says there's a meeting, but it doesn't say the time or the location. So I'm like, oh, so I had to text the Yes WTHS group.
Yeah.
I'm like, so do they really want people to come?
No.
You know, like, but it's the unspoken. It's
Yeah.
unspoken. So yeah, thank you.
No, thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it very much. Okay, if there's nothing else. Yeah. Absolutely.
Talk without getting into a legal conundrum dialogue and potentially responding to a comment we like versus some a comment we may not like. But, you know, in the interest of treating every public, I guess what I'm asking for is dialogue from us, doesn't have to be tonight, but also maybe a legal opinion from our council on whether the concept of board comments after public comment would work.
So in other words, after reception of visitors, have a topic that says board comments. and we-
Literally after reception
Right after
of-
that.
Absolutely, and then we're silent for the 3-minute comments.
Yep.
And then we're welcome to respond. So it was a great session, and I thought could solve.
Yeah, if we could look at
So
it,
it's
it's a
still
great
not a
idea.
dialogue, it's just a comment on
It's
our
just a
end.
comment.
It protects
Okay.
us.
It protects us.
Because I've
Okay.
noticed us start to trend in a direction that, you know,
Yeah.
I just want us to be careful
Yes.
as we move forward.
No.
Particularly as we get closer to the vote of the referendum, you know, so it could protect us, and it just makes some sense, and it was a really good takeaway from a session.
Yeah.
Tony, that's a fantastic idea, because I say every night, it's not meant to be a dialogue, and yet tonight I was making comments.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, that's a great idea, because a lot of times when people have comments, I feel handcuffed, like I want to answer the question and help them out, and we're not allowed to.
And it would take the cuffs off.
Oh, that'd be great. So,
Sounds great.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tony. Any other comments? We all good? If so, then I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Drake. Mr. Demonte? Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for your time.